Good afternoon, and thank you for joining me while I do something a bit different. Instead of reviewing a whole book, I'm going to be reviewing one story from this book. This is occasioned by the fact that I have quite a few books that I'm trying to get through for October. Many of them are short stories, and they all sort of mush together in my head if I read too many short stories at once. So here we have my second Hammer horror film omnibus, turned from movie into book by John Burke, and in this gorgeous 1967 edition. It is lovely. I have had it for a long time. I've been taking care of it. So before we go into the story from here, let's talk a little bit about Hammer horror. So Hammer Film Productions was a British film company that started in the 30s, and it went through several iterations, but apparently it's best known for its gothic horror and fantasy films, including classic ones such as Frankenstein, which I don't have here, Dracula, which I do. Dracula Prince of Darkness is on this list. The first one is The Reptile, which has sunk into obscurity. I don't think I've heard too many talk about it recently. Dracula, of course, famous as ever. The third one is Rasputin, the Mad Monk. Haven't ever even heard of that one. And the last one is The Plague of the Zombies, the one I read this time. Now, Hammer Films went through several iterations between in the 30s and then again up until the 50s, and then there was another iteration later, and its first significant experiment with horror came in 1955 when it did a whole heap of movies that I haven't watched. But then it later progressed on to doing in 1966, I'm pretty sure, it came out with not only The Plague of the Zombies but The Reptile. Both of them are directed by John Gilling. Plague of the Zombies starred Andre Morel and Jacqueline Pearce. Jacqueline Pearce also appeared in The Reptile, which might be my next read, I'm not sure. And there's a whole host of other characters. Now, what I think is interesting about that is that all four of these films are what this book is based on. The 4 films from the House of Hammer, upon which this book is based, were cast, directed, and produced as follows. So I like the fact that they've got all those credits there. And I do find it kind of odd that John Burke, who was a fairly prolific writer, he did novelizations of a lot of things, but he wrote a lot on his own. There's no credit for the fact that at least one of these books is actually, the movie was based on a book. So you've got the book, which was Dracula, and then they made a movie out of it, and then they made a book of the movie instead of the book that movie was based on. I think that's pretty confusing. And I haven't read the Dracula yet. I've got opinions. I really love the original Dracula by Bram Stoker. I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about a novelization of the movie that did some pretty liberal things to his book in the first place. Yeah, anyway, that got complicated fast, didn't it? So Hammer film books, there were quite a lot of Hammer film books, and I think there's at least 3 of the Hammer horror film omnibus novels per se, and as such. I wouldn't mind getting more of them if I can come across them. Okay, so what is our plot in The Plague of the Zombies, which I'm pretty sure is what these gorgeously naff images on the back of the book are based on. I don't think I've got a credit for this cover anywhere, do I? It's a bit dirty and a bit old and a bit poor condition, but there's not a lot I can do to clean this one because it's such an old book, 1967, that it is actually just plain cardboard with No plasticization of it. Okay, so the Plague of the Zombies starts very low key. We are in the house of Sir James Forbes, who is a famous, we gather, physician. I'm gonna say academic, combination of all those things, which in 1860 they overlapped a lot. So he and his daughter Sylvia are about to go on holiday to Scotland, but at the last moment this weird, confusing, poorly written letter arrives from the depth of a Cornwall. It has been sent by the local doctor Peter Thompson, who was once the protege of Sir James Forbes. He then married Sylvia's best friend Alice and declined his sparkling future as a physician in London to go off and practice medicine where he believed it was needed most, in the depths of the countryside. We gather from this book that in 1860 Cornwall was the end of the earth. It was isolated, it was remote, it was the back of beyond, as it were. Whereas these days I believe Cornwall is more of a pleasant drive in the country on your long weekend. Anyhow, alarmed by this letter, Sylvia leans on Sir James until they both head off into Cornwall to find Peter and Alice Thompson. On the way there, they have their first spooky encounter. They're driving along on the coach. A whole heap of young men on horses are hunting a fox. Sylvia misdirects them, feeling sorry for the fox, which comes back to bite her later. As they enter the village, the young men, who are described as arrogant, etc., recognize the coach, and they come up to it and confront Sylvia on the fact that she misdirected them in which direction the fox was going, which one wouldn't think would be required since they had dogs. Anyhow, they're angry with her. They take a swipe at the coach. There, at the same time, you've got the funeral procession with the priest and 6 men carrying the coffin coming along. The coffin is knocked to the ground, it bursts open, and the corpse rolls along the ground. It's all quite horrible, in the best sort of way. Now, the squire and Sylvia repair to Peter Thompson's house, where they find Alice is grey and not like her former self. So James eventually finds Peter in the pub. They don't call it a pub, they call it something else. Whatever. Having a drink of whiskey. We find out that in this village people have been dying like flies, as it said in the hard-to-read letter, and that the doctor has got no idea what's happening and he doesn't know what to do about it. Once Sylvia and Sir James meet Alice, it's quite clear that Alice is in a wasting situation, probably having caught whatever is killing off all the others. It turns out that Peter has done no autopsies, having been denied the right to do autopsy on any of the dead by the locals, who are rural and superstitious. That's the word I was looking for. So this is one of those books which very much you spend a lot of your time sort of yelling at the characters, no, don't follow her into the darkness, and so on and so forth, which is what happens next. Alice and Sylvia have bonded while the men were out doing something or other, and Sylvia's very worried for her friend Alice, who is haggard and careworn, but who has fallen under the mysterious spell of the Squire Hamilton up in the big house. Eventually the two ladies go to bed in their separate bedrooms, and Sylvia opens the shutters that have been fastened closed, and when she does that, she sees her friend Alice walking off into the darkness. She calls after Alice, who doesn't seem to be aware that she has been called after, and decides to follow her. Poor decision making. We are all yelling at her, but she does it, because how do we have a story otherwise? She follows Alice off into the heath, where the young bloods, who were previously from the hunting party, accost her and horrible things may be about to occur. It's actually a pretty thrilling scene, and I can just imagine that as a movie it would have been pretty spectacular. As a result of this expedition, she eventually is carried up to the manor house, and the young men's betting on her, playing cards as to who will is interrupted by Squire Hamilton, who's really angry, knocks the young bloods around, and tries to make it better with Sylvia, who isn't having any of it, and heads back home. On her way home, she sees a horrible sight of a grey, shrinking, corpse-like person dressed in a shroud just above the abandoned tin mine buildings, and he is carrying what appears to be the body of her friend Alice. So, it's a great gothic setting. It's more than a little bit naff in that very specific Hammer horror style from the 60s. So you're either going to like this style, in which case you're probably going to love this story. I thoroughly enjoyed it. There were times when it had me at the edge of my seat. Pretty much. Or you're not going to like this style and this book isn't going to be for you, if you can even find it. I've only seen this once over the years. So I really liked how strong and distinct a character Sylvia was. Suicidally foolish, heroine activities, of course, but that's what you get. The old tin mine was a perfect setting. The post-mortem was the only thing that really dated this. So in the 2020s, I think most of us are sophisticated enough to know that in your book or film or whatever media you're consuming, if you've got a corpse lying on a table and an incision causes blood to flow, then that corpse ain't no corpse, that's alive. Apparently, when Peter Burke was writing this in 66-ish, that was ahead of time knowledge. So you've got post-mortems happening where the blood is welling out, and that would have made for a beautiful movie scene, but it would have convinced any modern reader that things were not as they were meant to be. So aside from that, we've got a zombie situation, which, again, to the modern reader, the first part of it doesn't read anything like zombies. Mostly it reads like there's vampires out there. You've got mind control from a distance. You've got blood being this significant ingredient. You've got horror-y stuff, people coming back from the dead. All of it rings to my modern ears as vampires. Where it differs is where Sir James has a quick go at the local priest's books and comes back full of information about voodoo in Haiti. And that's where the zombies creep in. So read it for yourself, have a good time. Or if you don't want to, maybe go and find the original movie and watch it. But I really do think that the reading of this is a lot of fun. There's one particular passage I marked out because it is so much pulpy fun. He could not move. If this writhing, blasphemous creature claimed him, she must have him. Eyes without lustre, mouth without meaning, the serpentine drag of her movements. He had no courage to fight them off. Zombie! Sir James was rigid and accusing. There was nothing academic, nothing professional, nothing detached about him anymore. In a rage of terror, he screamed the word, "Zombie!" Thoroughly enjoyable. The Plague of the Zombies by John Burke, based on the Hammer horror movie. I do recommend. Thank you for watching. Read good books. Bye.